social media is an online portal in which you talk and document your life and keep in touch with other people.
Social media is a way to put yourself out there, I think. Not only to communicate with other people, but to actually put yourself out in the media.
It's being social, but in a written manner.
Social media is media that involves social communication between people.
Maybe 2 to 3 hours, I guess, altogether, but it'll be like in little spurts. It'll be like 10 minutes and then 5 minutes and then, but it adds up after a while.
Probably about 8 to 9 hours a day. Not like constant, but like throughout the day, if you add it all together, it's like 8 or 9 hours, maybe 10.
2 hours as we prep the show. So there's 4, 6 hours in the afternoon. I'd say probably 8, 9 hours on average.
I use social media in a day probably, I'll say 4 hours in a day.
How does social media affect your work environment?
Makes it easier. We're able to connect with more listeners through social media. You know, when you're listening to the radio and the Mike and Diane show, you're not necessarily going to hear everything or hear the details to it, but through social media we can post it on Twitter or on Facebook. Over here. You can read about it later, interact at your on your own time.
I'm on the Mike and Diane in the Morning Show, so we use our Facebook page to promote what we're talking about in case you can't listen to the show. Like, our show starts at 5:30 and it ends at 9, and some people aren't up, but they still want to know what's going on. So we put up what we're talking about, and we put up pictures so people don't really miss out much. We use Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, not that much, but we still use Pinterest. And we just like to put our show out there in case you can't listen. So I use it from the moment I walk in at 5:30 to 9 o'clock when the show ends.
Well, it makes it kind of difficult to pay attention. If you can hear or see your phone go off, you instantly want to run over and check and see who it is and then answer back quickly.
Which social media site is your favorite?
I'd probably say Twitter, because you get headlines, you can bang through a whole bunch of information quickly, and I would say Twitter.
Instagram, because I like to post pictures a lot. I like to edit pictures. Oh wait, Vine! I forgot about Vine. Vine's my number one.
I use Facebook the most.
Tumblr is hands down my favorite social media site, but that's because I like reading the conversations that are on there. People have decent debates and people are pretty funny on there, but when you go on Facebook, people are a little bit too serious about things, and I mainly only use Facebook if I'm uploading pictures.
And 10 years from now, how much social media do you think you'll be using?
If I stay in like the industry, like communication field, I feel like I'm going to be using a lot, because that's where you get all of your source of information. You get everything from the internet. Like, something happens, it's tweeted immediately. So I feel like if I continue in the industry that I want to be in, which is the communication field, I feel like I'm going to be using it at least up to like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
10 years from now?
Yes.
Hopefully not a lot. Hopefully I'll be so stuck in, I'll be focused in being able to do stuff in my life that I won't have to be like, oh, I'm bored, and just go on Facebook.
Just as much, if not more. One of the trends in television now, and in television news, they're really moving towards the social media platform, where they're gleaning news stories and following news stories from the social media. I think Fox News Channel has the News Deck or something like that. CNN has a similar thing. And I think MSNBC is doing similar type things. So I think we're going to see more, instead of your typical news, you're going to see people getting their information on a news level from social media. I think it's going to be more prevalent, it's going to be more user-friendly, and even if you don't use social media now, I think it's going to be virtually unavoidable in not even 10 years. I'm going to give it like 2 years. 3 years?
I think it'll vary on where I'm at in my life. I guess 10 years from now, I'll probably be using social media. It's a hard question to ask because I don't know where I'm going to be at. I would say most likely more, because depending on where I go in my life, social media might be my only way to stay in contact with relatives home, staying in contact with my friends at home, staying in contact with people in general, wherever I'm at. And any final comments before our interview concludes?
My back hurts.
I'm the worst person for a documentary ever.
Follow us on Twitter at Mike and Diane Show. Will be my final comment.